And you're live. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Forever Red Devils on a Wednesday night, 24 hours out from a vital Europa League clash between Manchester United and Fenerbahce as we go and reunite with Jose Mourinho, who's had a lot to say about Manchester United and good things, to be honest, with what he had to say about the club and potentially but even becoming a league champion with Manchester United. Joked a little bit about that, but yeah, it was a bit complimentary about the club. So we're going to talk a little bit about Jose Mourinho. We're going to talk a little bit about Xavi Hernandez and the demand he's allegedly made to Ineos about if he were to come, for example, who the type of players he wants to bring in. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the team potentially for tomorrow. Team news with Manchester United taking just three midfielders to Turkey amidst an injury crisis, as well as suspension to Bruno Fernandes. Not a particularly strong squad that's gone over there. But a squad that's got enough quality to win because it's Manchester United. And there should always be enough quality to win, although it is going to be quite difficult. So let's start a little bit with the Jose Mourinho news. So in his pre-match press conference today, Jose Mourinho was asked about Manchester United, their struggles, and he said that he still likes United, still had a lot of time for them, still wishes them the best. Said as follows, in fact, he said, "I wish the best to Man United since the moment I left." He said, "I left with a good feeling to the club and with a good feeling to the fans. If things are not going amazingly well for them, it's not something that makes me happy. It doesn't make sense for me to be thinking about what's happened and what didn't happen." He said, "What happened for sure because it's very objective. They keep faith in the coach. They support the coach. The coach is staying season after season, and that means stability. It means trust, and they are giving him conditions to keep developing his job. That was a different relation in relation to me." So basically, I want to take a bit of a pop at the Glazers and the fact he didn't get the backing that Ten Hag does. But to be fair, I think he always had the fans on side, and even when he left, I think a lot of fans appreciated him and the kind of reception he got even in leaving. I don't think there's actually too many hard feelings between him and the club as a whole. Probably more sort of hard feelings with him and the structures. What was very interesting is that he was then further asked about Sir Alex Ferguson and spoke about him and said that we're going to find out a lot apparently in his documentary about just why he has so much admiration and appreciation for Alex Ferguson. So he said as follows. He said, he's an amazing, incredible. He said, "When my Netflix documentary comes out, you will know why I have so much respect. I don't know the situation with regards to the ambassadorship being taken away from Sir Alex Ferguson, saying it doesn't matter why or what. He has the love and respect of every Man United fan around the world. That is more important than the ambassador or money he doesn't need." So he then finished with that interview, well, some of the questions asked by saying, "Sooner or later, they will succeed." He said, "Hopefully it will be sooner, hope before one day I go back to the Premier League and they become my opponent. At this moment, they are just my opponents for one match." It's an interesting situation. I mean, Jose Mourinho had success at United, but also I think lost the change room quite quickly with the style of football, the man management, the way, for example, he lost Paul Pogba and so the fights he had, I don't think and I think that maybe the attitude he had didn't go down particularly with the current players. For example, Marcus Rashford's opened up about his time under Jose Mourinho, saying that he learned so much as a player, that he really developed, that he had to, he didn't necessarily get to express himself as much. So he said that maybe he wasn't the right coach for him individually, but he did learn so much. And I think that's kind of the problem as well. I think, he's obviously a very dogmatic type of character, very much my way or the highway. Marcus Rashford spoke about the fact that that Jose Mourinho very much sort of drilled into them that a 1-0 result is the same as a 6-4 or 6-3 or 5-2 result type of thing, which is very typical of Jose Mourinho, who was always so defensively sound, for example, didn't actually need to worry about scoring lots of goals. Not that, he had sides that did score a lot of goals. Real Madrid's side scored plenty of goals, but he was very results driven. He was very pragmatic. It was all about getting the results, being defensively solid, not conceding goals, not losing football matches, winning them, and not sort of sacrificing points or ever dropping too many points. And you can't argue the success. He has won wherever he has gone. What's quite interesting about that interview is the speak of the return to the Premier League. And I think that is his ambition. I think that is the league that he likes the most. He's managed 2 different Premier League clubs, for example. Where he'd come back, I don't know. maybe a stint back at Chelsea could potentially be a chat. I mean, he was there sort of 2013, 2015, wasn't as successful as his initial stint. But yeah, whether he'd go back once again, I don't know. I don't think he'd ever come back to United, for example. So it would be interesting if he ever were to come back to the Premier League, what he'd do. I mean, he's won. I mean, at Chelsea, that for me that makes the most sense. He's won, I think it was 3 Premier Leagues with them, including that 14-15 stint, which wasn't as good as his initial stint where he won a couple of League Cups, for example, won the FA Cup, I think it was, won everything bar the Champions League with Chelsea. But I mean, his CV still is absolutely mental. I mean, he's got league titles in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, in the Premier League, and he's won trophies basically everywhere. You look at his, for example, individual awards, and the list is not going to count. He is one of the greatest managers of all time. I would love to see him back in the Premier League, and I'd love to see him. I mean, for example, I'll be interested to see if he were to take up like a Newcastle type project, or whether he's now sort of. I mean, you think about since he left Spurs, going to Roma, very big club, and not necessarily a top 3 side, going to now Fenerbahce, for example. Not these very small clubs, but it's not quite the Chelsea, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, United, are they? I do think that he was treated harshly by Spurs. I think if he had stayed, I think he would have gotten more results. I think he could have gotten a trophy there as well. I think he was on something. I think not necessarily the best football, but I think that he was a serial winner. And I think if they had bought into that mentality, then I think that they could have found more success. But he went to Roma, won them a trophy, then kind of got the sack. He doesn't stay particularly long. I think the longest he stayed at the club is about 3 seasons. I don't think he's ever had a stint longer than that. If you look at Porto, it's 2 years at Porto, 3 years at Chelsea, 2 years at Milan, 3 years at Madrid, 2 more years at Chelsea, 2 years at United, 2 years at Spurs, 3 years at Roma. So he doesn't stick around for very long. And that's because he's a very big personality, and he's quite what's the word I'm looking for? Not quite conflictive, but yeah, he is. He is somebody who is very big. He does have quite a big ego about him. It's whether you call it self-belief in the likes, that is the reality. And I think as a result, I think he clashed with a lot of people and generally stays for a while and then moves over. But yeah, I think really cool to see that he doesn't have. I don't think he does generally hold too much grudge against United. I think United, obviously, very few people leave United without having good things to say about the fans, about the people within the club, not the owner so much, but support staff and the environment, stuff like that. It is a very special club. There's a reason we all support it. In terms of tomorrow, he's going to offer us a challenge. There's no doubt about that. It is going to be a tough challenge for United tomorrow. It always is playing against the Jose Mourinho side. We know they're going to be defensively compact. We know they're going to be tactically very good, and expect to see him set up in a way that will hamper United and make it difficult to break down. I think it's very important tomorrow from United's perspective to start really well. Because if we don't start particularly well, then I think it could become quite a long evening for us. And let's hope that we do start well and that we can try and get a couple of goals and potentially look to rotate. But we'll talk a little about tomorrow in a little bit when we speak about the predicted team. And I want to talk a little bit about Xavi Hernandez and what he has had to say. So, rumors have broken in the last few days about Xavi being approached by Manchester United and holding talks with Ineos during the international break. Apparently, there are concrete talks about him as a potential replacement for Erik ten Hag. However, he has apparently been quite upfront with some of the demands that he has made. And one of them is that should he join Old Trafford, he wants Manchester United to go after a former player of his from Barcelona, which is the former Leeds winger Rafinha, who is tearing shit up in the Liga, to be perfectly honest. He's been really good under Hansi Flick. He is 27 years old in a really, really good purple patch of form. 5 goals, 5 assists in the Liga so far. 1 goal in the Champions League and an assist. He's playing some fantastic football. And I tell you what, as a United fan, I'm not mad if that's the condition. The problem is I don't think Barcelona would sell him. But it would be an interesting circumstance if that was a condition, if it sort of come true. But I think there's a lot more to this whole Xavi thing. I don't think it's quite as simple as, well, if you go and try and sign this player, I'll come and stuff like that. It's a very complicated scenario with regards to what's happening with Erik ten Hag, for example. Are they going to back him? Are they not going to back him? And as I was saying last night, again, and I re-emphasize the point, if you believe that he is the one for the job, go out and get him. Make a bold decision. And if he's ready, for example, then bring it. You got to make a decision, because if you want him to come in, we need to have a transfer window. So if he's going to come in anytime soon, you've got to look at bringing him in the next month or two, so that he's got a month to look at his squad and go into January and then try and see, can we bring in certain players that might suit the way he wants to play, where he might see some deficiencies in the United ranks. Where can he find a couple of sort of short replacements to fix certain key areas within the squad, because it has to happen like that. You can't just keep bringing managers into an old manager squad and ask them to perform. Now, this is the frustrating thing, is that now Erik ten Hag has kind of built the squad, but we're still not getting results. And we talk about him needing time, but we're in our third season now. He has signed a lot of players. He has brought in players, and a lot of them haven't worked out. If you look at Anthony, for example, hasn't really worked out. If you look at Malacia, hasn't worked out. In fact, I'm actually going to look at a list of the players that he's brought in. So since he's been to Manchester United, he has brought in, well, this has got a long list, but obviously this is, over here, it is officially 21 players. Now, that includes, for example, the likes of Dubravka, Jack Butler, and Veghorst, those sort of things as well. But, if we look at some of the permanent signings, Serge Reguilon, for example, on loan was reasonable signing, and then sort of went back. Sofran Amrabat on loan started to get good towards the end, but it didn't really work out. Mason Mount, absolute disaster signing so far. Just been injured all the time. Even when he's played, he hasn't really produced what he produced at Chelsea. If we look at Anthony, close to 100 million euros, been appalling. Casemiro had one good season, and then he's faded off. Christian Eriksen's having a good season now. I think generally he's probably been a good signing. It was a free transfer. But Malacia, disaster. Anthony, disaster. Mason Mount, disaster. We're now starting to see what will happen with Ugarte, for example, De Ligt and Xerxes. He hasn't been great so far. And he's been some big money signings as well, to be fair. So he has built a squad around himself as Erik ten Hag. Now, yes, we haven't quite had them all being fit at the same time, which is very frustrating. And that is a genuine thing that it's a genuine grievance. It's a legitimate grievance that Erik ten Hag can have, the fact that he has had so many injuries. But to a certain degree, you also got to look at, well, why are you having so many injuries? Why are you not able to pick the side you want to pick? Is it because of training issues? Is it because of lack of fitness? And what's going on there? And what is being done to try and improve the situation? These are the big questions. And we're not getting any answers for these questions, are we? So, yeah, time will tell how all these things go. But at the moment, as mentioned, if Ineos are speaking to other managers and they've got a decision, I wouldn't mind them being bold and going and giving Ten Hag the sack if things don't improve in the next few weeks, and going and bringing in somebody, even if you have to pay Ten Hag out. We've got to do what we got to do at the end of the day. We've got to do what we have to do to get back to the top. Now, speaking of results in the next few days, we have gone to Europa, or we went to Turkey, and this is my predicted team for the weekend. What's the weekend? Thursday. It's been a long week already. Now, we went over there. I'm just trying to give out the injury list. But we went over there with three midfielders. Our travelling squad is as follows. So by Ende, Tom Heaton, and Andrew Onana. For the goalkeepers, defenders are Harry Amas, Diego Dalot, Matthias de Ligt, Victor Lindelof, Lissandro Martinez, Nasser Moswari, Habib Uganei, Casemiro, Christian Eriksen, Emmanuel Ugarte, and then forwards are Ahmed Anthony, Alejandro Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund, Marcus Rashford, Ethan Wheatley, and Joshua Xerxes. So from that squad, I've gone with that. Predicted 11, and I've gone with Onana in goals, a flat four of Dalot, Martinez, De Ligt, Mazraoui. I'd be very, very surprised if that changes. Outside shot, maybe Victor Lindelof. What I would really like to see is Harry Amatz get opportunity off the bench tomorrow. A left back, youngster, very talented, and given the fact we've got a bit of a left back crisis, if we can potentially get some minutes into him, I'd really like to see it happen. I've gone with the three midfielders that we've actually got Although ironically, that's not how I'd actually line. Personally, I would like to line up. I would love to see us go with Ugarte, Ericsson in the core of the midfield, and drop Joshua Xerxes into a false nine, onto the number 10 position, type of thing. And let him be a linker player, which is what he does. Well, I mean, you've got just a 4-4-2 here. They have Xerxes and Holding up front. Let's roll it back, shall we? Come on, roll it back to the old days. It won't happen. But I genuinely think that Xerxes could do a job floating in behind Hoyland, linking up with Rashford and Garnacho. We might see Ahmad starting on the right hand side. I'll be surprised. And then players on the bench. I think we'll see Ahmad involved at some stage. I think we'll probably see, if he doesn't start, we'll see Xerxes involved as well. But yeah, I don't think things will change too much from that. That is probably the safe selection that kind of links up with what we've seen in the past, and genuinely what Ten Hag has sort of named. But it's frustrating, isn't it, that you look at that side and it's not a phenomenal side, and there's not a lot of players look, in terms of players we get back, who goes into that side? You've got Bruno that goes into Ericsson. You've got Luke Shaw, who starts at left back. Delo or Mazraoui starts at the right back. You've got Mason Mount maybe in the midfield over there. Kobe Mano obviously goes into the midfield. So you've got lots of players back, but it's where are the superstars? I just always look at this United squad, and there's good players, and we've always had good players, but where are the players that you name and you get excited about? And besides Bruno and Rashford, and now Garnacho starting to come, we just seem to be lacking that world-class players, don't we? To look at the player I can get excited about, for example. Onana's getting there. He's definitely improving a lot. So long may that continue. But it's just such a lack of depth at the moment because of the injuries we've got, but also just because I feel like the players we do have are also players of the future. I know Ineos has now got that sort of attitude, sign players for the future, not necessarily players, who are going to be on big transfer fees trying to develop players, which is all very well, but, we haven't won the Premier League in over a decade. Now, I'm not waiting another freaking decade to try and get there. We've got to start winning trophy more than just an FA Cup result. We've got to start competing for the league now. We're playing Champions League football now. Not in 4 or 5 years' time. I mean, if we were to win the league in the next 2 to 3 years, I'm happy, but we need to be Champions League football next season. At this stage, we're not looking good for Champions League football because we're not looking particularly good in the Europa League. We're not looking particularly good in the Premier League. So that is what I think we will see tomorrow night. I'd be very surprised if that were to change. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I'll be interested to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And I don't think we'll see him be too brave, for example, and go to Xerxes or potential change in formation. I do think they'll go very much that. He needs to be brave, though, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't even be mad if I were to see a Harry MS start at left back if Mazraoui isn't fully match fit and you have Diego Dallo on the right. As I said, start with just Ugarte and Ericsson. Plays Xerxes in that number 10 role. Let him roam. Let him. I mean, he talks about the fact that he does drop back and kind of plays at a 9.5 or a 10, and can sometimes drop into the midfield to help out. It's where he seems to be good at, And we've got Hoyland, who is a genuine out-and-out striker. So try something. Try and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then unlucks. But there's no guarantee, for example, that team's going to work. So I don't think there's much harm in potentially trying out something like that. But I suppose only time will tell. So we'll see how they line up tomorrow, obviously. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below.